Today we're going to talk a little bit about eating disorders. Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the Mailman. My name's Punith and I'll be your host. If you're new here, this channel is all about breaking the stigma around male body image issues and the mental health impact it can have on you and men and males of all ages. If you're wondering who I am, you can watch the rest of my videos, that'll explain it. But in summary, I'm a 38-year-old man with a young family and pretty much a lifelong history of having male body image issues and mental health problems, which I've only really discovered that they were problems in the last couple of years really. So it's important for me to start speaking up about this stuff because I think it's so easy to just ignore a lot of these signs and triggers and just float through life, and especially if you're experiencing your own insecurities or you've noticed changes in family members or other males that you know, or even your children. This type of thing is actually quite serious because if it's not addressed quickly, it can lead to a whole load of other issues like I've been suffering as an adult. So I think it's so key and so important that you understand what these issues can be, what they can do to you, how they can impact you long term, and quite frankly, offer support to those people. As I said, especially in the children, if you can address these types of issues, insecurities that they have or starting to develop at a young age, they'll be far better off later in life. So let's get into it. Eating disorders. Now, obviously, growing up, you hear about the main types of things about, bulimia, anorexia, and that's it. That's all I heard of. And that's typically associated with you eat something, you throw it up. That way nothing absorbs or digests in your body and you don't put on weight. Now, I'm not an expert in eating disorders. And what I was doing at a young age, I didn't really think was an eating disorder. I thought it was my tactic to try and lose a bit of weight. But on reflection, yeah, you could probably class it as an eating disorder. I would go to some real extremes where I got to the point of just eating, instead of my usual kind of rice and curry, but obviously being Asian, that's all we had really in my house growing up. Instead of having rice and curries, I used to swap the rice for lettuce. And that started off as a little bit of lettuce with a bit of rice and then your curries. But it ended basically as a ball of iceberg lettuce, like a whole ball shredded up with curries on top. And that was my dinner. And my parents basically had to buy this, what looked like a serving platter, like a huge plate. And that is what I would eat of lettuce every day. 7 balls of lettuce a week. Sounds ridiculous, but it helped me lose weight. And once I started seeing the weight come off, I got obsessed with that. I got obsessed with calorie counting everything. Every single thing I would even think about eating. I was like Rain Man, but of calories. I just knew everything. Walking down the shelves or aisles in supermarkets, anything I'd look at on the shelf, I'd be like 90 calories, 100 calories, 500 calories. Like I'd just eliminate certain things based off the calorie number. But then my eating disorder, it sounds like a diet, if I'm being honest. And that's what I thought. But I got to the point where it literally took over my life. And then when I went to uni, I was just so obsessed with eating the right thing. And obviously that's hard to do when you're a student. You try and avoid all the greasy crap and the fried chicken and all of these like late night fast food places after a night out. But I couldn't do it. And then I went to the complete opposite, where it was like I was deprived of all this flavor for so long that I just went to the other extreme of binge eating crap, sweet stuff, fried stuff. It's literally all I ate. Processed foods, things from packets. Like, it was just, I completely went to the other extreme of healthy eating. It was just non-existent for a good 3-4 years. But that's a separate topic, and I think it's not an uncommon one. I think a lot of people face that kind of challenge when they go to uni. Convenience foods, right? It's cheap. You don't have money when you're a student, so you just eat whatever garbage is available. Anyway, so yeah, growing up, it was I didn't really realise or ever thought I had an eating disorder, but looking back, I definitely did. It wasn't a normal way of eating. And before all the lettuce and that whole phase of my life came in, I think one of the reasons why I ended up getting so big was not just that I was very well fed as a child, but I also had this kind of habit of, after dinner, no matter how full I was, I'd go up to do my homework or study with a packet of crisps and a chocolate bar or some sort of like cereal bar or something like that every single day. And that was really unnecessary, but it was like a habit that I just couldn't break. And I did that for years. Like, I'm talking 4 or 5 years of extra food, extra calories on top of what was already a very heavy, calorific, carby meal. And you could argue that was my fault, my parents' fault for kind of letting me do that. My willpower. It just got to a point where that was normal for me. And breaking that habit was extremely difficult. And I had to go to a real extreme in order to do that. All because I wanted to lose weight to fit in and get kids to like me. Really pathetic. I mean, I'm looking back now, I'm not saying don't control what you eat or don't diet. If you want to eat healthy, if you want to lose some pounds, do it for you, 100%. I'm all about health and longevity of life now. I'm eating healthy or healthier. I still have the odd treats now and again, but I'm also running. I'm also trying to look after my heart, trying to live longer. But I'm not as focused about losing weight to try and fit in, and I'm trying not to let what others may or may not be thinking of me even be a factor. It shouldn't be a factor. And that's really difficult to kind of think about and have that perspective on things when you're at a young age, where especially children, the 1 or 2 wrong words from a fellow child to another child, it can really damage them. It can really plant a seed of doubt in their minds that I don't look right, or something's wrong with me because of the way I look, or I'm not feeling accepted by everyone else, I'm feeling left out. Is it because of the way I look? Is there something wrong with me? Because then you don't want them to go to an extreme where they take it in their own hands, go on a crash diet, or try and change the way they look, try and use skin bleaching cream, eating balls of lettuce a day, start taking pills to lose weight. I'm saying all of these things because this is what I did. I did all of this and more to try and change my appearance, just because I wanted to fit in. Anyway, I know there are so many other eating disorders. As I said, I'm not an expert on them. I'm just an expert on the eating disorder and extremes that I went to. But if you've noticed someone in your life, a son, brother, just any other man, male in your life who's changed their eating habits, either they're not hungry or they overeat and then they disappear for a little bit after eating, or that you've noticed a real sudden weight loss in them, that needs to be investigated. You need to look into that, talk to them, find out what's going on. Is there something deeper that's making them do this? Is there something that's happened in school? The people that they're hanging out with, quite often, they don't just get the idea out of nowhere. Quite often it comes as a recommendation from someone else who started doing it. So you got to be really mindful of who they're hanging out with, and if it's really serious or if you're really worried, they need the professional help as quickly as possible before it has real kind of knock-on impacts on their health and their body. Maybe they just need that education, that guidance and that support. Help them to eat right. Open their eyes to what are good foods and bad foods. Open their eyes, more importantly, to the fact that if they look a certain way, it's because we all look a different way. We're all built different. There's nothing wrong in looking the way you do. And you shouldn't change yourself to fit in because other people are making you do that, or other people are making you feel bullied into looking different or to look like them. Why do you have to look like someone else? That's my point. So just watch out for these little subtle signs. They might be really subtle, they might not even be that obvious. They might be really obvious, and you might just not know what to do. But there are so many support groups out there. There's professional help. There's pages of social media, videos on YouTube, actual organizations that support eating disorders and how to overcome them. So look into that before it's too late. If you're watching this and you currently have an eating disorder, I completely understand how you feel like it's just so difficult to stop. You know you're doing something that you shouldn't be, but you feel like it's right because it's going to improve you in some way. But honestly, I'm telling you now, having that eating disorder, going to crash diets and extremes to just try and lose weight to look different, yes, it made me lose weight, but the damage it had on my mental health is something I'm feeling to this day, because it was such a big change for me when I eventually stopped following these crash diets and just started eating regular foods, that it almost changed my relationship with food to this day. I yo-yo through different diets all the time, even now. And I know that's normal, you can't stick to a diet. But I feel like because I just went to such extremes before, it would have been easier now to have that willpower to control myself, just having a balanced, healthy meal. But I can't. I have to go to an extreme in order to feel like I'm going to be successful in some sort of diet or in a goal that I'm trying to achieve. I have to go to a real extreme. I can't find a compromise and just take the kind of long, consistent approach. person. That's just the way my past and the things that I've done with these diets and extreme eating disorders have changed me now. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. So I'm just speaking from a point of view of experience. If you're doing something to yourself which you know isn't right, just think about the long-term damage, not only physically but mentally. Because hopefully if you stop putting yourself in that position and taking yourself to an extreme, you'll have a better relationship with food, but also mentally you won't feel like it's either all or nothing either. You can find a middle ground. You can just feel more balanced with everything you do. And I'm just talking from the point of view of being an overweight child back then, going on a crash diet. Completely appreciate there's the other side of this where you might be underweight and you're trying to bulk up or put on some weight, but you just can't. And I completely get how that must be really difficult and really crushing to you, that you're almost making yourself feel sick by eating so much or taking these shakes or supplements, but you just can't seem to put on the weight. That's no fault of your own. You've got to firstly realise that that's not your fault. There's just something in you that's making you either metabolize those calories quicker than other people, or you need to investigate that professionally. And there will be a solution for that. And maybe just eating a shitload of more food isn't the answer. Maybe there's an actual medical reason that you might know, you might not know about, that you need to speak to a professional and address those concerns, because staying quiet about these things isn't going to help you. And that's one thing that I learned was, I wish I went to a doctor or spoke to a specialist. There wasn't any social media and stuff back then for me to, research and find out if other people are in this same situation as me. But now there's tons of this stuff for anyone with an insecurity. If you're overweight, underweight, tall, short, whatever it is, there's so much out there now. There are so many answers and solutions, and obviously you've got to take social media with a pinch of salt, but professional help, qualified people, there are so many people out there, there's access to so many people who can help look into this for you and give you the right advice. That's one thing I wish I had when I was growing up. So honestly, don't think that there's something wrong with you and you can take it into your own hands and fix it. There's always a safer and professional way of doing things. As always, thank you so much for watching. We're slowly starting to push this message out. The only way to raise awareness about the brand, the topic, and to make other people feel more comfortable being in their own skin, being content with the way that they look, and just happier in life, is by pushing this message out and helping me break that stigma around male body image and the issues around that. So subscribe to the channel, really help me push this out, because without you guys, it's just me talking to a camera. I've been Punith. I'm nearly at work, so I better wrap this up. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.